some thoughts on the Lakers. Now that we got another game last night with LeBron back in the mix, and that Jazz game was a chore to watch. The intensity was completely lacking for the first 2.5 quarters. The Lakers played some real defense in the late third, from the late third on, and there's some really encouraging stuff there. We're going to talk about this. It's weird. Like, I'm kind of more impressed by their defense to this point in the season than their offense, which makes no sense compared to how I saw them coming into the season. They found a lineup that was really getting stops late in the game. And this is kind of one of the unique things about the way that the Lakers roster is put together. They don't have a bona fide, like, starting caliber three to be found on the roster anywhere. But what they do have is they've got a bunch of different kinds of dudes to slot into those jobs. So, for instance, like DeAndre Ayton leaves the game yesterday with a knee contusion. He was out for the entire second half. And so, Jackson was playing pretty well throughout the game. He ended up picking up some fouls in the second half, and JJ ends up going with Maxey. And Maxey, who's looked really athletic as of late, which is encouraging because the dude's really struggled just to get on the floor and stay healthy, but looked like he was healthy and moving really well over the course of the last couple of games. And what he's provided is like a hybrid type of big that has some real switchability. And ironically, he's not like terrific at anything on defense. Like, he's not like a lockdown switch defender. He's not like an unbelievable rim protector, but he's like sneaky good at all of those things. Like, he will come flying over and block a big Keontae George layup late in the game, or like the final possession where Keontae George missed the three in the corner. That wasn't a foul. That was an awesome contest by Maxey on a really tough play as Keontae came off through to the corner. Got a great contest on that shot without fouling. Like, that's a play that a lot of bigs will foul. They'll either be too far back and they'll give a good look, or they'll be too far up and they'll commit a foul, right? Like, I thought, like, Maxey brings some of that. He brings the switchability. He brings like competitiveness on the glass. Like, Maxey just kind of does a little bit of everything. And so you can see the different types of options that JJ Redick has. You have DeAndre Ayton, who's this very traditional big that runs deep drop, is an excellent defensive rebounder and an excellent like roll man, right? But he has some shortcomings. He's not as good on switches, and he makes a lot of mistakes, right? He's a little bit of a mistake-prone player. Same thing goes with Jackson. Like, he's improved a lot defensively this year, but he's a little bit mistake-prone. He can commit some fouls. On offense, not much of a threat on the short roll, but a great vertical spacer and very good at making the short roll reads right in the middle of the floor, right? Like, they all bring different traits to the table. And then similarly, at the end of the game, Marcus Smart was really struggling to knock down catch and shoot threes, getting some wide open looks on pick and pops with Luka. So like, that was kind of an issue throughout the game. Rui Hachimura brings a certain dynamic to the table on offense. Jake LaRavia brings a certain dynamic to the table. Well, yesterday, JJ Redick's like, I need speed. I want speed out there. So he ended up going with Gabe. Gabe hits a huge catch and shoot three on the left wing and is like battling Lauri Markkanen on switches, providing really physical defense up underneath him and like flying around in rotation. And all of a sudden I'm watching this lineup and it's like LeBron, Luka, Austin, Gabe, and Maxey. And it's like each guy is a different. Gabe and Maxey are like two very different types of options than some of the options JJ's gone with in the past, but they bring unique traits. Like, Maxey is a more versatile big that is pretty good at a lot of things. And Gabe is really fast and competes defensively at a level that most of the perimeter players can't get to. And so like, all of a sudden it just kind of worked and they got a bunch of stops. And like I mentioned earlier about how the defense to me has been actually a little bit more impressive than their offense. That, first of all, is statistically right. They're 14th in defensive rating to start the year at 15th in offensive rating. But that even the offense stuff gets a little more complicated because the Lakers are top 5 in half-court offense. Set the offense to the side for a minute, though. I've just been really impressed by the defense as being a timely defense. They have these awful stretches. They'll have stretches like the first 2.5 quarters where you're like, what are you guys doing? And when they're so slow and they're also not mentally engaged and they're also not physically engaged, they can look so bad on defense. But consistently every game, especially again against the bad teams, it's happening later, but we're seeing it in some full games like the Bucks game, right, where they go on the road and they just look fantastic on defense all night. But like, they'll just be like, we're going to tighten the screws. And when they tighten the screws, they have some high IQ defenders like LeBron, a couple extra rotations, he had a bad back cut. He lost, I think it was Ace. He gave up a couple of bad ones to Ace late in the game where he wasn't rebounding and he lost a back cutter. LeBron, not a good defensive game last night overall. We'll talk about it in a minute. But like, skies for a huge defensive rebound late in the game, and like Luka's getting big stops one-on-one, and here's Gabe fighting against Lauri Markkanen for a big stop, and Maxi's making plays everywhere, and all of a sudden it's like, shit, they look like a good defense for, this 10-12 minute stretch where they assert control over the game. And on the other end of the floor, Luka starts getting super aggressive and starts getting good shots, and all of a sudden you're in control of the game. And this has shown up in the metrics. The Lakers have been the number one clutch defense in the NBA to start the season, and they are 6-0 in games that have come down to clutch situations. And part of that is like, that's kind of a good checkpoint. So in a lot of ways, like, my checkpoints for the Lakers coming into the season were they need to be an elite offense, which they haven't been, and we'll talk about in a minute, and they need to be a above average defense. They have met that check mark. They've been an above average defense, a situational defense. They are much closer to what we considered the Denver Nuggets to be at their peak, and kind of still so to this day, than what they are, or than what we thought they would be, which is like a bottom third of the NBA type of defense. They've been a team that for 5-10 minute stretches really locks in, has high IQ defenders mixed with a couple of higher level defenders, and they just get stops. They've been a good defense against the good offenses in the league this year per cleaning the glass as well. That's the one thing that's like kind of randomly encouraging, is their defense has been able to get timely stops. Here's the downside, though. In order for that formula to work, like what the Denver Nuggets were in 2023, where you're an above average defense that can be very good situationally and get stops at the end of games when you need to, that team was transcendently great on offense. And the Lakers have been just a little bit underwhelming on that end of the floor. And there's two key areas that I think are holding them back. One is the shooting. And this is really the fundamental thing that's stopping them from being like unguardable on offense in the half court. And they've been good. Again, they're fifth in half court offensive rating, according to Cleaning the Glass. And it's a lot of that, just like Luka and Austin are unguardable in pick and roll. And LeBron is just destroying teams in the post. LeBron's run 13 post ups so far for 22 points, including passes. That's 1.69 points per possession. He's either just scoring or making an easy kick out for a three or a lob dunk. Like, he's just killing teams in the post. And so their 1-and-1s are really good, and it's causing a lot of success for them in the half court, but they're not quite as good in the half court offense as they need to be. They need to be like top 1 to 2. And then they're 15th in offensive rating because they never score in transition. And that's the second piece of it. Now, I don't expect the Lakers to be some sort of elite transition offense, because they don't really have the players for that. They don't have the speed to beat teams up the floor. But what's standing out to me in terms of the offensive shortcomings that we've seen is every single lineup has a couple of guys on the floor that are like, yeah, they can make a three, but they're not knockdown shooters. Like, when you look at the starting lineup, for instance, like Rui and LeBron are the only guys where it's like, if they get a clean catch and shoot, they're going to hit over 40% of them. They're the only two guys. Like Luka, and it comes to the stars. Like, Austin and Luka are not good catch and shoot players. Luka's probably never going to be, because he's very much like a on ball, like initial shot creator. And I don't really have too much expectation there, because it's just so rare for him to get catch and shoot looks. But Austin in particular, I had hopes for him at this point in his career to become a reliable catch and shoot guy. I just thought, as a competitor and like given the situation he's in, that he'd put in the work behind the scenes to get to that point. But he's looking closer to Luka as a guy that's like a very much a rhythm-based jump shooter who needs to feel the ball and like take him off the dribble more than take him off the catch kind of guy. And so with Luka and Austin both being poor catch and shoot players, it's causing a lot of these drive and kick sequences to end with, oh my God, Austin's open again, clank. Oh my God, Luka's open, clank. And it's just a problem, because they're not paying off a lot of these sequences. They have advantage creators, advantage extenders, dudes that are generating really clean looks, and they'll get a lot of dunks and they'll get a lot of buckets out of their one-on-ones. But so many of these drive and kick sequences are ending in the hands of guys that aren't making shots. And then you go to the bench and it's like, yeah, Jake should be a good shooter, but he hasn't been making shots. Like, Maxi Kleber didn't even want to take open threes yesterday. That's going to be an issue, right? Like, Marcus Smart, every single time he takes that open catch and shoot three at the top of the key, I feel like it's short. And so like there's just a huge kind of like shooting shortcoming there. As a matter of fact, as you kind of dig into the numbers, they are bottom 5 in 3-point percentage this year, and they're dead last in 3-point makes per game. Those are some concerning metrics that I think are holding them back on the offensive end of the floor. Ultimately, though, I don't think it's going to come to like this is not a thing a trade can fix. The only thing that's going to help the Lakers get to that point where they start to pay off more of these sequences and become a better, more reliable offense, Austin and Luka have to become good catch and shoot players. So behind the scenes and all their shoot arounds and every single little bit of extra work they can get, those two guys got to work off the catch because they are going to end up getting looks by the way these sequences are working out, and they're just not paying them off at this point. So like strangely enough, some really positive indicators for the Lakers. I mean, they're 12-4. They've got the third best record in the NBA. They're 14th in defense. That's a really impressive number for that group of talent. Number 1 clutch defense in the NBA, 6-0 in clutch situations. But weirdly enough, I'm not as high on them as I was kind of looking at this team on paper because their offense just isn't coming together in large part because of how poor their catch and shoot play is. And it's just something to keep an eye on over the course of the rest of the season.